Now, is my third eye pimple gone? No, it is not. Hi everyone, I am excited to bring you a new full day wear test application and review for L'Oreal's brand new product on the market, at least in the US. This is the L'Oreal Skin Ink. It says foundation and concealer, dual purpose. So let's get into looking at the claims here. Thank you so much if you're already a subscriber. If you are not, please hit that red subscribe button. And you can also go follow on Instagram. And the latest videos have all been drugstore review videos. So if that is the market you're interested in, make sure you go check out the latest handful of videos that are up on the channel. So this is a new launch in the US. It is available now at places like Walmart, Target, Ulta, and it looks like the most expensive by far is Ulta at $19. On Ulta and Target, the price is more like $15 to $14. You get 0.5 fluid ounces, which we'll talk about later. The full name is the Skin Ink Up to 48-Hour Longwear 2-in-1 Foundation Concealer. You already know I'm not going to test this for 48 hours, but we will put some of those more long wear and resistant kind of claims to the test. It looks like there are 21 shades, I believe, maybe 22. They are divided up into undertones, so neutral, warm, and cool. L'Oreal says this is the future of makeup. Up to 48 hours of wear, yet light as ink, lasts until you decide to remove. Evens like a foundation and covers like a concealer for the ultimate hybrid. Designed to be customized with buildable longwear where you need it, in a self-setting, soft matte finish that doesn't cake and doesn't crease. The new patent formula resists transfer up to 48 hours while feeling undetectable on the skin. It is waterproof, sweat-proof, and humidity-proof. Here is a list of the full ingredients. You can see that dimethicone up at the top. It does contain alcohol, denatured alcohol, so just be aware of that if you're someone who is particularly susceptible to that, or you have super dry skin and you don't want something with any alcohol in it. Otherwise, pretty simple, straightforward, maybe not straightforward, but pretty short ingredients list. So we'll keep those claims in mind as we go forward. Let's go ahead and rewind and start with application. And lucky for us, not lucky for me, I guess, I have this like almost third eye blemish that popped up on my skin yesterday. So I'm really hoping that this product is gonna help cover that up. This moisturizer I received from Wishtrend. This is their Vitamin Amazing Bakuchiol Night Cream. What's interesting about this formulation is, love the packaging, it's opaque pump dispenser. You get a little more than 1 ounce. This has bakuchiol, which people use as a more gentle form of, or alternative to, I shouldn't say form of, alternative to retinol. But then the ingredients also includes retinal, a more potent form of retinol. So you have both the more gentle and more potent forms. So I'm not quite sure if I would necessarily say that this is appropriate. Like, they market it for example, for use on your neck because the neck can get really sensitive. But I you know, if it has the more potent form, I don't know if it will necessarily avoid irritation in that area. I use it on my neck and I have had no issues, but I also don't have any issues with getting irritation in general with various forms, even the most potent forms of retinol. It's a nice medium consistency. It's not liquidy or watery. It gives you hydration and nourishment, but it is not thick or heavy. Now, the retinol is lower on the ingredients list, so it could be that there is a low enough presence of that ingredient to not pose any sort of issue, but I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was interesting. It's really been a Korean beauty kick because this is a K-beauty brand, and then the shampoo duos that I have been using are also both Korean beauty shampoos and conditioners. So this first duo is from Labo. I think that's how you pronounce them. This is their scalp, basically scalp treatment duo for it. They market it as targeting hair loss. So the hair loss care shampoo and the scalp capsule treatment, which is basically the conditioner. First of all, you get so much product. These are quite affordable. All of these, I think, can be purchased through Amazon or other retailers that sell Korean beauty products. Now, what I will say about this is I am not a huge fan of the scent. It is quite, it has a very menthol-y quality to it, and it's kind of herbally medicinal. I don't dislike it. I'm not going to stop using it because of the scent, but I did notice that I don't really particularly love the scent of this. Oh, I guess it says it's a fragrance of eucalyptus and basil, which makes sense. That's definitely what it smells like. They say it's a low pH vegan shampoo, it's sulfate and silicone free. Obviously I haven't been using it long enough to see if it actually helps hair growth, but it does have caffeine, which some studies show can help with hair loss. And the company also calls out biotin, ceramides, and green tea. The second duo that I've also been trying out, this one is from Miscine. This is the original shampoo and the treatment, which again is basically a conditioner, although this is pretty thick. I feel like you could use this like a treatment, like a hair mask if you wanted to, but I use it as a conditioner. Now what's interesting is this has, oh man, the scent is very nostalgic. It is not something I think everyone will love unless they are kind of familiar with the scent already. I love it. Amazon describes the scent as floral. That's absolutely wrong. I disagree with that. This is also a vegan formulation. The formulation does have Moroccan oil and jojoba seed. It says a fresh yet sweet scent of citrus and green apple and orange blossom and lily of the valley. Maybe it is a blend of citrus and floral, but in any case, it's a great shampoo. This conditioner is wonderfully, beautifully thick. Maybe you can kind of tell the texture there. And I would describe it almost like a super thick gel, which I know sounds strange, but that's how it feels to me. Leaves your strands super soft, and then if you follow it up with the serum that is from this brand, I think this is a really great trio. So I actually purchased this in 3 shades. 125, all in the warm line, 100, and 80. 125 is 100% too dark for me. When I looked at the swatches online, I thought this would work, but when I received it, way too dark. And in the packaging, it is, even though they have this window, it's impossible really to tell any significant difference between these shades. So you can see those look pretty much identical. Ultimately for my NC20 skin, in the summer, maybe NC25, I'm thinking I'm between 80 and 100. That's 100. This is 80. There's a pretty big jump. That's 80. And then that's 125, which is way too dark for me. So yeah, I think 80 is probably too light. So we're gonna go with 100. There's the swatches up close. Maybe we'll use 80 for concealing under the eyes and brightening. Now they emphasize shaking the bottle or bottle tube before using, so make sure we do that well. And then L'Oreal says apply it to all the areas you want it and then blend with a brush. So taking a fairly large brush for foundation purposes. It does blend beautifully over the skin. Gonna work in sections on half the face. You know, it is kind of an interesting, somewhat unique, I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but it's a little unusual, I guess is the word I would say, to have a foundation product in a what we would normally associate as a concealer tube. I feel like the downside of that is this is a small tube for foundation purposes. Half an ounce is half of your typical foundation offering. All right, so coverage I feel like is apparent, but on the lighter side, at least with one application. I have peeling on my forehead from using my Retin-A lately, so that's not this foundation's fault. I just want to give you a heads up on that. It's very smooth. It has a powdery finish, quite dimethicone kind of finish to it. I'm gonna sweep over another layer. See if we notice change in finish, or coverage, I should say. A little bit of building up. You can tell how much more yellow this shade is than my skin on this side. Yeah, I feel like I'm between an 80 and a 100 in terms of shades, but that's okay. It matches my neck pretty well, which ultimately is never a bad thing. So I definitely see some patchiness on the forehead, but again, that's where my skin is dry from retinol. On the rest of my skin, like especially on the planes of the cheek, it is very smooth. Okay, so there's the change in finish, coverage compared to no product applied. So here's how you can see how the coverage has changed, because on this side I have one layer, and even with the color difference, you can tell the difference between one layer here and 2 layers applied. So applying this way, you can definitely see how the coverage has built up with adding more product. I personally like this side better, but that's just because I prefer more natural skin-like coverage. Let's go ahead and even it out. I'm also noticing, at least on initial application, this does not settle into my lines along my nose and mouth the way that most products do. Now we'll see if that remains that way for the rest of the day, but it does smooth that area out really nicely. Now, is my third eye pimple gone? No, it is not, at least on just application with foundation. Let's go in with some spot concealing, see what we can do. Now for the blemish, I'm gonna use the same shade, another Marc Jacobs brush. Oh, that definitely helped. Wow, that's impressive. Not completely gone, but concentrating it in that area definitely helped. Now this powdery finish makes me a little bit hesitant with using this for concealing for under eye purposes, because it could lead to it looking dry and cakey. You know, when you have 20-year-old skin, it can tolerate more dry formulations, but when you have more mature skin, typically you want something more hydrating under here, but it doesn't look too bad actually, at least for now. I think a more emollient formulation would look a little less cakey in finish on the under eye, but it's not, at least on initial application, it doesn't look super dry under there. All right, going back with 100 for more spot concealing on the blemishes on my face. Somehow I have a scratch here. All right, I'm pleasantly surprised by how this foundation looks. And for someone like me with oily, shiny skin, this finish is actively mattifying for my skin. I am very curious to see how it wears throughout the day and how it holds up for that mattifying effect. I won't retouch throughout the day or powder because I want you to see how it develops, but on initial application, this is what typically when I use other foundations, liquid foundations, this is what my skin would look like after I have powdered on top of the foundation and I'm getting that finish and effect without the powdering step. So that's a good thing to know if you are someone who wants this finish, but also if you're someone who has dry skin and you do not want this powdery mattifying finish. The brand Wonder Skin, which is new to me, they were so kind to send over a sampling of their makeup line. They have lots of offerings, but I think they have the most products concentrated in lip products. They also have some eyeliners too. This is the 1440 Longwear eyeliner line, and I'm going to use the shade Brown Sugar. You immediately get that super creamy, almost gel flow. Like, I'm barely touching this to my skin and it glides over so nicely. Beautiful. And before it sets, I'm going to use a pencil liner to buff it out and buff it into the lash line. I love this kind of formulation. I can already feel it setting, so maybe you want to do one eye at a time, but I love this formulation because it glides on so effortlessly. You don't have any tugging at the eyes, and then you have some moments to buff it out if you want to, but then it sets. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to using the other shades in this line. They have black, they have blue, they have whole range of shades. I think their big product is their Wonderblading Lip Stain, because it's one of those where you apply it and then you swipe it off to leave the stain behind. They have a very extensive range of shades. I don't know which one I want to test out here. Maybe let's try Whimsical. Okay, so that's the packaging. Oh, I think this is the one I inadvertently chose, or maybe they're all like that, I don't know. The one that applies very bright purple. So you apply it kind of like a mask first. Now, I love me a lip stain because it's just practical. You don't have to reapply every hour, every few minutes. You get the benefit of that color. It doesn't feel like anything. Now, this way of getting the lip stain is new to me. I know there have been others on the market in the past. The ones I typically use are just like in a marker form or in liquid form, and they just sink into the skin. This mask application and then wiping off is not something I've done before, but I am curious to see if it works. I mean, it is like a marketing thing to have it be so bright and noticeable like this, but if it works, I'm on board. Let's let that sit for a while. Oh yeah, and in reading this, it does say the blue mask. So all the shades seem like they will initially apply like this, which is fun. That's part of the kind of appeal and uniqueness of this product. It says only 15 to 20 seconds for a softer finish, 30 to 60 for bolder. I've definitely had this on for probably more than 60 at this point. Let's go ahead and remove. Oh, I love that. Might be something you apply before you apply your foundation, just because you may inadvertently swipe off foundation, but look at that. Oh, I love. This is so fun and gives you a wonderful lip stain. Yes, I will definitely be using this, especially in the hotter months. You don't want to deal with gunk on your lips and just all that nonsense. This is wonderful to have in your arsenal. And then on top of that, I was sent Rare Beauty's new, I think this is the new lip gloss. This shade is in the shade Spark. That's what the shade looks like up close. Just gonna apply that on top. Ooh, it has a, whoa. Oh my gosh, that scent is incredible. Beautiful. I haven't used a ton of Rare Beauty products. In fact, I'm trying to think of if I've ever used, there must be at least one other one I've used, but this feels fantastic. I feel like these lip products are just hitting it out of the park. Feels fantastic, no grit. There's sparkle in it, but no grit. Super nourishing, but I gotta figure out what this smell is. Peach. It says subtle peach scent. It's not subtle, and I love it. I typically am not a huge fan of peach, like peach flavored. I love peaches, but peach flavored like sparkling waters and things, that's never my first choice for flavors. But man, this smells fantastic. What was the other thing I was noticing? Oh, the description. It does have a little bit of tingle after about 30 seconds of wearing it. I was like, ooh, it's feeling a little tingly. Nothing strong or extreme, so if you're sensitive to that, I don't think that you need to avoid this product just because of that. Oh, I wanted to tell you how they describe the shade. Spark is described as a mid-tone brown with rose gold and bronze pink. I think it's very, very wearable. Lots of different skin tones and shades. All right, there is the finished makeup look. Already seeing a little bit of shininess develop right on the sides of the nose there. So like I said, I'm curious to see how this develops, how well it keeps that mattifying effect or powdery finish. Blush is applied, but no other like setting powder or mattifying powder. It's gonna be super hot today. So this whole sweat resistant or sweat proof, waterproof claim is definitely going to be put to the test. So I will check in with you, see how it develops, and see you at the end of the day. All right, it's been around 4 hours of wear, and you can see that there is shininess that has developed as I kind of expect, but nothing super oily, slick looking. And in fact, at least with the way my skin works, since this has had time to kind of meld with the natural oils of my skin and settle in, the initial patchiness that showed up on my forehead because of the dry flakes that I have there from my skin treatments has died down. It's still noticeable, but it has definitely smoothed into the skin more than after initial application. So here's the finish, more up close. Along the lines here, not as smooth as on initial application. You can see the lines emphasized a little more, but again, nothing that is any different from any other foundation that I normally use. And just a side note, the eyeliner, no smudging or transferring, and this is the lip stain. I have had water, drinks, and eaten food, so even with all that, you still get that nice flush of color there. All right, see you in another 4 or 5 hours. All right, here's the final check-in. You can see it is pretty universally shiny now. So I would say that at the end of a full day, the shine level that I'm getting is pretty comparable to the majority of the foundations that I wear or have tested. But it did have a much more noticeable mattifying effect, setting effect, as the company kind of describes it as, after initial application. And I would say a pretty good mattifying control for the first 4 to 5 hours. It's really kind of in like the last couple hours that the shine has continued to develop. And also, like I mentioned, it is really hot today. So that could also contribute to it being a little more shiny at the end of the day. But in terms of how it has worn, it's worn really nicely. It hasn't settled into my creases. Also notably, the concealer that I applied under the eyes hasn't become more like pruny and dry. It has pretty much kind of maintained the finish that I initially saw after application. So I am happy with this foundation formula. Of course, the fact that it is half the size of what you would typically get, and the price point isn't comparably half the price, means that it's pretty expensive. So if you doubled the amount and the price to match the amount you normally would get, you're paying in the ballpark of $28 to $30, and that's not a drugstore priced foundation. On the other hand, is it very convenient to have something this travel size friendly that does, I think, really live up to the claim that it functions both as a foundation and as a concealer? Yeah, it is. Are you willing to pay almost double the price to get that? That's kind of a personal decision that you have to make. Although, you know, Ulta has coupons and sales all the time that you can get these for a cheaper price. So I don't know, maybe if there's a buy one, get one, then you can dip your toe into this product when the price can match more of the amount that you're getting. So kind of final up close check-in. I also want to make sure we test the waterproof, transfer-proof claims. So I'm gonna do a blotting test to see how much transfer we do or don't get. Remember, I didn't put any powder on top, so there's nothing, literally nothing in between the foundation on my skin and what I'm going to blot with, just a piece of tissue paper. Other than, of course, like I said, my powder blush, and I did a little bit of contouring, but we can go here kind of in the middle where I don't have any color makeup on. That is pretty good. A very faint transfer of color that I can see, but I will tell you from experience that the color that's showing up on this is way less than what I usually get when I do this blotting kind of process to combat my shiny skin. I'm gonna do like just like a finger swipe test. Oh yeah, it's not quite transfer proof, but obviously that's gonna depend on how much pressure you use, and nothing's going to be like a tattoo on your skin, thankfully. I also want to test out this waterproof test. I'm not gonna jump into a pool, but what I am gonna do is, you can tell when a product like this has resistance to water, because normally it will pill. So I'm gonna take, it's just plain water, nothing else. Yeah, you see how the drops are running off? Definitely got that pilling. Oh yeah. Even when I blend the water into the foundation, you can see how it's kind of repelling and making the water go back into, not quite droplets, but it's definitely has a water resistant barrier. So that's good to know. That speaks to it being a very long wearing formulation and being able to better tolerate things like if you are getting sweaty, if you have oily skin like me and you typically have problems with it breaking down because of that, then this is a kind of formulation that will hold up better on the skin. All right, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know if you've tried this product, what your experience has been, if it's been different, any questions you have. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next videos.